Okay, good afternoon, everyone, or good evening or good morning, depending on where you are. Thank you so much for joining our session today. My name is Amina Patton. I'm a Senior Academic Partnerships Manager here at Course Hero, and I'm really excited to welcome you to our session, Enabling Education Through AI Activities, excuse me, for Diverse Classrooms. This session is going to be led by Dr. Marie McMerrill. Excuse me. We hope this session really inspires folks to share ideas with one another. Throughout the session, we really welcome your questions and comments and feedback in the chat. For questions specifically, use the Q&A feature at the bottom of Zoom. That way we won't lose them in the chat. Any other commentary and things, feel free to drop in the chat bot like you all are doing already. Dr. Marie McMerrill is an educator with over 2 decades of experience teaching at the secondary and tertiary levels, certified in social sciences in Florida and English language in Massachusetts. She holds a Massachusetts license for superintendent of schools. Dr. McMerrill's teaching repertoire spans world history, U.S. government, economics, English language, primarily in Duval County public schools. She has served as a course coordinator and instructor at the University of the West Indies Global Campus, facilitating the education of doctoral students and undergraduates in educational leadership, management, policy, and diversity management for 11 years. Welcome, Dr. Marie McMerrill.
Hello, I guess that's my cue. Welcome, everyone. Imagine a world where learning is exciting, personalized, and keeps you on the edge of your seat. That's the power of AI-driven engagement strategies in education. So AI, of course, you know, would be intelligence that is automated and for technology. And so what I'd like you to do is to, in the chat, think about whether you have ever been bored in a class. What did that teacher do? What did a teacher do to keep you engaged? Think about that. Think about, drop at least 1 or 2 of those ideas in the chat bar, and then take a look at what everyone has shared and list your top 3 ideas that you learned today. I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that. Now, in this scenario, I'm going to be sharing with you, we're going to look at what happens if in a situation where your teachers have students that are not participating in their classroom. What do we do? How can AI, artificial intelligence, help us with this? Draw a circle. Place the students that you think would be helpful to you, would be responding to your lessons in the center. And as you go outward in that circle, select the students that are lesser engaging in your classroom, that are lesser participating. And when you get to the ones on the outer line, on the line of the circle, those students will be students that you really find extremely challenging to teach in your classroom. And then think about those that really, when you see them, you check yourself about whether you should be here. You have some students that are challenging. You still need to engage them. They may fall outside, even outside of that circle. Consider those students and think about that in the coming year. And let's see what happens when teachers actually did this idea and how this could work for you. So this is called an equity audit. Equity audits are usually done by principals, some teachers, but across school districts on a wider scale. But this is just for teachers to use, how teachers can use this in a classroom. So we have struggling students, and in this scenario, we had 3 teachers with a combined total of 380 students, and they did this exercise over a 3-week period. So in addition to the regular lesson plan, you do your regular lesson plan, you do your assessment, and you realize that you still have a few students who are just not getting it. So here's an idea of how we could maybe put an intervention in place. So these teachers that you're seeing here had, teacher 1 had 160 students. They realized that 35% of the students in that teacher's classroom fell outside of the teacher's zone of self-efficacy. So the students that are within your circle would be inside your zone of self-efficacy. The students on the line and outside are outside of your zone of self-efficacy. So teacher 2 had 65, 20% of those students fell outside of the zone of self-efficacy for that teacher, as well as teacher 3 that had 155 students and with 20% falling outside of that. So what to do? The idea came up to do what we call reader's theater. So after trying all the usual strategies, differentiated instructional strategies, teacher professional development strategies, there was still an issue. 100 students out of 380 students fell outside of the zone of self-efficacy of these 3 teachers. So to increase cognitive engagement, the idea of using reader's theater came up. But then how do you use reader's theater? In this example, we also used world history benchmarks. So just to give you an idea, but this is applicable to mathematics, and you will see that at the end that I will share with you an example of how a mathematical teacher could use this example, use reader's theater combined with AI. So what is reader's theater? Reader's theater is a collaborative strategy for developing oral reading fluency through reading parts in scripts. Students do not need to memorize their part, but they will reread the script several times to build familiarity with the language and practice appropriate expression. Now, in your classroom, you will have diverse classroom. So what does that diversity look like? You may have ESOL students, students who speak second languages or primarily speak their own languages and really don't speak much English, which has been the case. Several teachers have experienced that. So you might have a Spanish-speaking students, you might have French-speaking students, Russian students. So what do you do with these students? How do you engage them alongside their peers? Then you have students with other varying abilities. You have to engage those students as well. You have students with lower Lexile scores, students who are below their grade level in reading. How would you engage these, ensure equity with all of these students? So reader's theater is one of the proven strategies, and you can use this as an intervention. So having done your assessment, we can now practice, use this as a way of practicing, building on that. So I've given you here the references at the bottom of the page, but our focus on this example is going to be how we can increase student engagement using reader's theater. So this tool has been proven, and it's been used for improved reading fluencies. enhancing comprehension. And of course, you want to make sure that they understand what they're learning, and increased engagement. Engagement, not just being hearing you and being aware, but engagement cognitively, so that they are being able to create things at the end, thinking about asking questions at the end. So how can we do this? Using AI, artificial intelligence, we can use Chat GPT. Now, Chat GPT, the current one is Chat GPT 4, but the Chat GPT 3 is still available and it's free. So you can use this to help. The alternative to this is, some of you may know about Bard, but Bard is now called Gemini. So Google uses Gemini, so you can also use that. And I've given you the links. You can share the links because we're going to actually use this together today. So in order to speak to the AI, you have to give it a prompt. Now, imagine that this is a vast database. So you have to be precise about what you're asking it to do. Otherwise, it will share generously. So be precise. I've given you some tips here and some examples of how this could be done. So here is a world history example. So you begin by introducing yourself. I am a high school world history teacher in Florida, or wherever you are from, working with, give your grade level, 9th grade students, for example. And we follow the Florida standards, state standards for world history. Now, at this point, you want to put your actual standard in, your standard or your benchmark. Okay, so make sure you have your standard, your strand, your benchmark, and be specific. You put that in. Could be English language, could be math, could be science. It doesn't matter what your topic is. And if you are not a teacher and you're in this, you can be an academic staff. It could be a rubric, could be a format for a meeting that you are asking it to do. It will do it. But you have to be specific about what you want to do and the length of what you want. So outline the task. So now you've given it the first introductory sentence, 1 or 2 sentences. Then you outline your task. Clearly state the assignment and the objective in one concise statement if you can. So for instance, create a play for the class of 30 students to be fully engaged and learn about the major Enlightenment thinkers, and you give the thinkers that you want them to focus on. Give precise instructions. Specify the format and length. So you want to give them, say, for example, you would like to have the play should be 3 pages on 8 by 5, 11-inch paper. And you have to be specific about this because it may give you 8.5 times 14 per paper per page. So you want to make sure you give it the page, approximate page length, and then using both sides for a total of 6 pages. Then once you've done that, you plug that in and it will give you within 10 seconds. And I am not exaggerating, you will get a play. So depending on the length that you want, sometimes it takes a little while to think. So it might be, you might take 5 seconds to think it through, and then another 10, so it might 15, 20 seconds at most. But then once you have that, review and then refine. So you have to read it through and look for any errors or anything you want to expand on if something is not clear. And you can do your little tweak, or you can ask it to tweak. So you can then restate the prompt, and then ask it to throw out something new with the additional things that you either want to remove or add. So what happened with these three teachers when they did this? The the activities that came out that were done over this 3-week period, one was Revolutionary Harmony. The play was called Revolutionary Harmony, and it unfolds the causes of the French Revolution and introduces key characters, including the Black classical music composer Joseph Bologna, who was given France's highest honors in music and fencing. So in this case, the artists, how artists also contributed to the French Revolution or were involved in revolutions, is also mentioned here. And that was an addition. So as a teacher, you could perhaps play the music of Joseph Bologna before the class begins and then before the play begins, so that the students can hear the music as well as understand who he was from the play. Ideas Ignite is another example. Unravels the Enlightenment ideas that fueled American and French revolutions. And Shadows of Conflict is another, which dived into the causes of World War I and World War II. So these were examples of plays that were created using the AI. There are alternatives. In one situation, in one class, there were students who were not cognitively engaged and perhaps feeling left out because of their reading levels. And so having cognitive dissonance, you as a teacher become more creative and let the AI help you. French Revolution rap. So here's a rap created about the French Revolution. And notice there's a chant in the middle of the rap where, so if one or two people may, be fluent and prefer and like to do this sort of thing, then you have that group doing that. And then the rest of the class being involved, let the battle begin, let the battle begin. So they will be chanting that at the end, in between each verse. And this is just an example of one of the verses. So you have various verses and each verse has its own chant. So French Revolution rap. Charades is another idea that was used. So you have a lot of students who might be nonverbal. For example, ESOL students are shy. They don't want to practice their English necessarily in the classroom. So charades helps them to be understanding what's going on. They will see a picture, a photo of what they're to enact out. So they will act out whatever they want to see. So for example, there is a photo of the Archduke and his wife being shot. So they would react that, and then the students have to guess what scene that they're actually acting out. So again, the AI can do this. Also, the AI can translate the plays to whatever language you would like. So the plays were translated to Spanish for the Spanish-speaking students, so they could follow in their own language, and French for the French speaker, so that they could follow in their own language. So activities are going, the students are engaged, they're excited because everyone has their own responsibility. They have to follow because they have to come in on time, on cue. And this is really a wonderful way. And this play and these plays were within 10 seconds of your time to create. So let's do now for ourselves. This should take you about 5 minutes. Create a play using the guidelines that I'm going to show you again. And it could be a rap, a poem, something like a limerick, a charade game, instructions for the game. You can do a call or response. Whatever it is that you would like to do, you could also ask it to create a rubric, a guideline for something that you'd like to accomplish. Let's just try, and then once you do that, I'd like you to copy and paste, maybe not too long, but a portion of it, enough for everyone to see what you did. So head on over to chatgpt.com. And if you don't already have an account, just create your account. And you can go to either ChatGPT or Gemini. Be aware that ChatGPT, and if you have been to the other sessions, I'm sure they would have mentioned this, they don't create anything new. They're using a database. So that's something to remember. ChatGPT 3, which is the free version, only has data collected up to 2021. So if you're using it to get references for anything, any research that's gone beyond 2021, you will not be able to get it from ChatGPT. So here's the suggested steps for you. Give a sentence or two about your context, who you are, the student's age group, and state your standard. You don't have to, if you don't have your standard immediately here for this meeting, you can just, record, ask for something, create something, a lesson objective. Outline the task, create a single sentence where possible. Give precise instruction, how long your page is to be, how long you would like it to be, and read the output, and then let's just post it and share and see what you come up with to engage your students. Now, while you're doing that, I'm just going to give you some ideas of the outcome in the interest of time. So what were the outcomes with these 3 teachers and these 380 students? Well, reflecting on your experience with the plays, do you believe they have positively influenced your overall knowledge, engagement, retention, and application of the world history material? So these questions you could create, for example, in Form. So Form and Copilot, that's an AI that Microsoft has. And when you create your questions, you would have to put the questions in this case. But if you need help with creating, you can use ChatGPT to help you to create those questions. Questions like these, you have to tell it precisely what you want it to do, what you're going to do with the information, and it will help you, and then you can tweak it. So in this, the outcomes here were that 90% of the students says I was engaged. 10% said I do not feel the play helped me. So I'll take 90%, and specifically 90% of that 100 that was outside of the zone of self-efficacy for the teachers. How did you feel about participating in the plays created through an AI platform? Well, AI means artificial intelligence, so that the students would know what that means. And you can see from the output here through forms that fun was at the top of the list. Experience more fun, class more fun, games are very fun. People, these are all ideas that came from what the students' response. So you can see that something is working here for them. And what did the teachers think? So they had 3 teachers, and from your perspective, how did readers' theater influence the classroom dynamics and collaborative learning environment, particularly in fostering a sense of community among students? And among what they said were, it made the class more engaged with the learning that they just did, which is, of course, our focus is about increasing engagement, cognitive engagement. The reader's theater has had a positive influence on classroom engagement, forced some students out of their comfort zone and allowed for growth. So that's some of the ideas that came up. Because of the time, I won't be able to go through each and every of the all of the questions, but the questions were about 9 questions. 3 of those 9 questions were just about collecting data, and the other 6 were really what you're asking about the activity. So having collected that, in what ways did AI generated plays contribute to achieving a specific learning objectives aligned with the world history benchmark? Well, it created stories and illustrations of historical events and processes. The play gave students a concrete way to link causes and effect of major. So the linking causes and effect is really the comprehension part of it, the element where they're maybe forming and understanding what's happening. And cause and effects are usually very challenging for students overall. The play was in line with the objectives and students participated. So this is what the 3 teachers thought. There were limitations in the study, of course, and these are the limitation. One, the student results are not generalizable across high school students in the US due to the study's limitation of time. But, the teachers continue, and I've read other researches where teachers have done not necessarily using this format with AI, but other interventions. And usually, even though this is not quite necessarily a small sample size, but the time being 3 weeks, within 3 weeks, as an intervention, you would need to repeat it to see what happens. The researcher has concerns about trait errors, reliability issues. So, for example, is a student being truthful about that experience? Maybe on that day they came in a bad mood and decided they're not going to cooperate. So they may respond like that. That can happen. So these are limitations that that you can consider. And then what are the outcomes overall? Overall, all 3 teachers observed positive changes in most students' comprehension and engagement. And engagement is what we were focused on, especially in at least 75% of those outside of their zone of self-efficacy in the world history classes. Specifically, all students showed increased participation in discussions, role playing, or rapping about lessons. Quiet students made more effort to engage, which encouraged the teachers. And students with below grade reading levels were given a vocabulary check-in prior to the start of the activity, which made it easier for them because, of course, reading below a grade level would create cognitive dissonance for them. And then that would be a distractor, a real reason to distract themselves. And then the use of artificial intelligence to create readers theater activities was time effective. That's critical. Time is what teachers want. They need to manage that time. And so having to create an intervention after you've given the within your curriculum structure, and then you haven't to keep moving, because the students who have gotten it, the students at the center of your circle of self-efficacy, they want to keep moving. So you have to so be able to move quickly and make adjustments. And so speed is very important. So particularly for teachers with large class sizes, teachers wish to continue. So overall, that's the outcome of that. So again, I'm going to give you a few minutes to try the AI. Use it for whatever you'd like, create something, and let's see what happened, what your results are. I'm looking here, I can't see my chat, so I have to rely on Amina to read out anything that's there. And so we're going to give you a few minutes to keep working. And then now we're at the questions. And Amina, how are we doing for time?
We're doing great on time. And actually, go back one slide so people can see the steps.
Okay. All right, are we there?
Yep, perfect.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So I know we had some mentions in the chat. Someone created a poem about to teach about the American government.
Wow.
We had another one. There was a one-page rap song that defines the NACE career readiness competencies for college students, and then also made a pirate script and a French rap song. A charades game about plant physiology, so mainly focused on the components of a leaf for 6 students.
Wow.
I think we have a whole song about the Great Depression.
But you guys, you don't have to stick to world history. Any subject is there, and perhaps maybe now is the time to share the math one with them so they can.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to drop in the chat for you all a sample document. You want to talk them through this, Marie?
I'm sorry?
You want to explain the example you created?
Okay, so simple. It's a math. I've added the math strand, the math benchmark there, so you should be able to see. I'm not seeing this now, so I'm just going from my memory. So there's the math standard and benchmark there, and then I've given the prompt. So there's a copy of the prompt that I used to create that play, and then so the AI has created a play to teach a specific math standard. And I asked the AI to ensure that the students understand this particular lesson objective. So that's a full example of a play, a short play, and you can look for yourself and see if a student would have learned. You can, look at it for yourself and see if you consider that as something that you would try if you were a math teacher.
Also had
and if you have questions, you can just drop it in the chat bar. What were you saying?
I said we also got another example while you were explaining the math play about Texas history. So it's a rap song about Texas history.
Wow, a lot of historians in this group. And I'd like to welcome those from Texas and St. Lucia and Cairo. Mina told me about. If you're from anywhere else that I've not mentioned, across the US, of course, welcome. And I hope that you enjoyed this session and the activities. I certainly enjoyed creating this for you.
We have someone who created a Jeopardy game um,
Ah,
about communication techniques.
excellent, excellent. So these are engaging things, and I hope that you will utilize this free uh, resource. And I must say that I got some of this information by participating in a Course Hero um, course. I'm not sure if they're still doing it, but I know last year they had a course on AI. Um, and so I think it was a month or a little over a month, a few weeks of training on AI, and that's open, I think. Amina, is that course is still ongoing?
So the course you're referring to is called AI Academy. We ran it in the
Oh,
fall and in the spring. Moving
okay.
forward, we're going to work to bring that specifically to universities and institutions that are interested in doing that professional development. So if anyone is interested in that, you can email us at educators@CourseHero. I'll drop it in the chat so
Oh,
that you can be in touch.
great.
Let's see what else we have
Yeah,
here.
that was a great experience, and you know, there are other courses that you want to keep yourself informed on, because this is an entire era. Just being able to write a prompt is now an entire industry. It's called prompt engineering. So this is a new industry that's expanding as we speak. And so just being able to write a prompt for a specific purpose, that's a new industry. Um, I did another course at the University of Central Florida on cybersecurity. That's an entire field. And they have a preliminary course, um, I think like a uh, five-week course that you can take just to familiarize yourself with the ideas in cybersecurity. But you can look that up, you know, for yourself, or you can email me and I'll send you any information if you need. Um, so anything else? How are we doing for time?
We're great on time. So someone made a charade game about the titles of short stories that they're going to be reading this summer. And then someone asked the question if the courses that you mentioned, if they're available online.
Um, the courses that I mentioned for,
The professional development courses.
okay, so for your Course Hero is you can email as I think Amina just gave that information out. You might want to just drop that in the chat for them, Amina.
Absolutely. If you're curious about any professional development from Course Hero, and I can tell you we do run them online and create an online learning community for everyone that participates. So we've had folks join from all over the world. So if you're interested in that, want to learn more about any of that, just email educators@coursehero.com. It's in the chat. And then Marie, I know you mentioned another professional development that you've done.
Oh, okay. The University of Central Florida one. That one I just mentioned that off the top. If you would like to get information on that, please contact me either by emailing me at mmcmara@hotmail.com or reach out to me on Skype, marie.mcmara1 on Skype or on LinkedIn, and I can send you the contact number for that course as well.
Also, someone created a role-playing game based on the failure of Reconstruction and actually shared a link to the document of what they created.
Well, would anyone like to share what they've done and say why, how they're going to use it?
We have
Is that
about 5 minutes left. So yeah, any other ideas,
oh,
feel free to drop them in the chat, and any questions we'll be able to cover in the next 5 minutes or so.
are there any questions that are not mentioned yet?
Not as of yet. I'm keeping an eye on the chat.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Can you, and actually I will write it in the email, in the chat for you. Someone's asking for your email address. And I will
Oh,
also reshare the slides so that you
okay.
have all of the links.
Yes. And I think these PowerPoint can be available to you if you would like.
So there we go. We just dropped the email and the link to the chat. Thanks so much for joining, Joe. Any additional resources from Summit will be available next week when the recordings are made available. So if you missed anything, you'll be able to revisit. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining. Great. Everyone's thanking you for your amazing presentation today, Marie.
I'm sorry I can't see you. I'm looking at my PowerPoint. But I trust that you are there.
Yeah, they are here sending their thanks.
And
Thank you
thanks
so
for
much.
coming. Thanks for joining.